Hello everyone, hope you are doing great. So welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we'll be understanding about how to deploy our .NET Framework application on Elastic Beanstalk. So let's get into the architecture diagram and understand what are the components required to have this. So we have first component as the Visual Studio, which is the IDE for our .NET application. So it provides you a sample code for your .NET application and easy deployment service. So we're making use of this Visual Studio to launch our whole environment. Then we are making use of our AWS Cloud to deploy our application, in which we'll be making use of a service called the AWS Beanstalk. So what exactly this AWS Beanstalk is like? So it comprises of a multiple services you can consider a one-stop solution. So we have something called as Elastic Load Balancer. So it will help you to redistribute your traffic in different servers, and where something we have auto scaling. So auto scaling comes very handy when you have the much load on your server and you wanted to scale it out, like increase your RAM or CPU or provide more servers to it. So in that way, auto scaling comes into the picture. Then we have something called as the Elastic IP. So Elastic IP plays a very important role when it comes to the deployment or development. So suppose your server gets stopped. So by default, there is a dynamic IP being provided by AWS. So your IP address will get changed. But when you are making use of Elastic IP, your IP address will remain static, and even after the restart, it will remain the same. So because of all this multiple features or services into one package, we are making use of a Elastic Beanstalk, so that someone who is starting a development or deployment in .NET framework should not get the overheads. So because of that, we are making use of a Elastic Beanstalk solution. So in this way, like whenever we will deploy our application, it will go into the public IP of AWS Cloud, where we have deployed our Elastic Beanstalk, and in like internally it will create a EC2 server and the load balancer, and this will be connected to our internet and the users will make use of it. So let's get into the action and start creating the everything from scratch. So we get into our Visual Studio and create a new project for our .NET application. Just search for here the MVC application, model view controller. So as we can see, the ASP.NET web application is there. Select one and create the next. Then provide the name to your application. Let's consider my web application. And similarly, we are making use of a framework called .NET Framework 4.7.2. Next, we have to create this one and choose the MVC here, MVC as your project, and create one. So in this way, will be provided with the sample source code for our .NET framework, and we'll make use of that particular code and deploy it to our server, that is the Beanstalk server. So let's wait for a while before like it gets started. So the one prerequisite is that we have to do one thing, like we have to install one extension in order to connect our Visual Studio to our AWS Cloud. So this extension is called as the AWS Toolkit. So for that, you have to go into the Manage extension and make sure this online mode has been selected and search here for the AWS Toolkit, and you will find one for Visual Studio 2017 and 2019. I have already installed it. So install this application, like the extension, and restart your Visual Studio so that all the changes can be applied to it. And on the right hand side, as we can see, this is the Explorer tab, that is a Solution Explorer. So as we have something in our static website, that is index.html, similarly we have something in our MVC application too. So just click on the view option, then the home, and here we can see the index.vb HTML. So this is the page we can see there. So we'll make changes to it to see the reflections. Before that, let's try to run this application so that we can understand what are the things. So as we can see, it started building the application, and it will launch the IIS server that is locally for us, so that we can understand what this application looks like before the deployment. So it's in the loading stage and it's making use of our local host. Port number is the 44343. So let's wait. So yeah, it's been deployed successfully, and as we can see, the sample application is there. So let's close it out and start with the deployment. So one thing you have to make sure is that your credential is being provided to the AWS toolkit. For that, let's view the things. Not this one. So we can find that AWS toolkit inside the view option. Just click on here and we can see AWS Explorer. So click here and just we have to provide the some credentials of AWS so that it get connected to the thing. So just provide the profile name and upload your CSV file of your credentials that comprises of a access key and the secret key, and select the region and click OK. And here you can see the list of services for AWS is easily available, and you can check on it like the different application is being deployed to it. For example, different buckets are being available in S3 bucket, so we can see all the things here. Let's close this for now and let's start with the deployment thing. So as we can see here is the our SLN file, that is a solution explorer file. So let's right click on it to get this option of a publish to AWS Beanstalk. Click this service, select your credential which you wanted to make use of it. Like I have multiple one, so I'm selecting with my default one, and select the region you wanted to choose. So I will go with the Virginia itself and click on next. Then provide the name to your application. Similarly, you provide the name for your environment. So I'm providing here, and let's make it a test server. Check for availability, like where the application is already being deployed with a similar name or not. So there is nothing like that, so we get the availability check here. Click on the next button, and here, before getting into this thing, let me explain you one thing. Like .NET framework is only being deployed to the AWS, like Windows server. So that's the reason by default it choose the Windows Server 2019. And for the starting the server, or we can say the for a web server, we are making use of a IIS server. So it's been chosen here. Then by default, the instance type is that T3, but we have to make use of a free tier architecture like instance, so that we won't get charged for it. So just select the t2.micro and get started with your things, or you can even choose the T3 like T2 dot medium for a better view. Let's make it a few charge if it's applicable. But you can choose the T2 dot micro too. That is okay. But by default, we can see the load balancer has been selected, application load balancer. Let's keep the things for the default now and move to the next. Then we have to select the rows. So you can select the multiple rows if they are available, or you can make use of our templates for that. Then create next. Then here we don't have to do anything, like by default things are being set. So I have told you about the runtime environment, right? So it by default selected the things that is required for application to host. That is the beauty of this Visual Studio integration with the AWS. And then click on the next. Just now we have to hit the deploy button, so it will start deploying these things on a server. So let's wait for a few minutes. As we can see, the deployment has been started, the upload is started for this thing, and we'll get a pop-up here. So I'm waiting for that pop-up itself. Okay, just a second. Okay, we got it. So here we can monitor the things like what the status is going. So in status, we can see it's in the launching stage. So why not go to our AWS management console and see the things in the live action. So as we can see, we are in the Elastic Beanstalk. Just refresh the page to see the things. Like I'm in the North Virginia region where the our application will be deployed. So it's here available, and we can see it started creating the environment. Once the environment is created, it will push our code to this environment and our things will be readily available for us. Then we get into the one thing like the let's check the instance that is running. So in the running stage, we can find nothing. Let's refresh it once because it was been open earlier, so it's not showing anything here. So let's refresh the things for once. Okay. So I've chose the running state because it's still in the pending state, like it's about to run. So that because of that, that was not showing. So as we can see, the instance got started, but still the environment is created. So I will pause this video for now, and once it's been deployed, I will get back to the video. So guys, our application is deployed successfully, and we can see the health is green. So let's refresh the things and get the status like the events. So as we can see, our environment is started, and in this way it's got successfully launched our environment. And let's this is the domain using which we can get to our server and check the things. So click on here and we can see our page is loaded successfully. So in this way we can launch our application, that is a .NET application, or deploy it to the AWS Beanstalk. So let me show you something more. Like if you wanted to connect to this instance which is running right now, you can even connect to that and check the things using the RDP. So if you try to connect the things, you will get an error like the port 3389 is restricted. Why? Because we haven't given the permission in our security group. So we need to provide the uh, firewall permissions to the port number 3389 in our security group to launch the things. So let's get into the things and do the things. So get into your instance and choose the instance which is running right now. And in the security tab, you will find the security group here. So get into it and edit it in one rule and add the RDP here, and by default it will choose the port and select your IP address or anywhere if you wanted to have. But myself, I always prefer to use my IP address so that only I can log into this thing, instance, and not the others. So save the rules, and now let's try to do the connect instance once again to see the things. So if you just click on it, okay, and now it's ready to do, like ready to go. So just connect here, and it will make use of that PEM file which we have downloaded earlier and connect to the instance, and we'll get the RDP of our AWS instance where the application is running. So this is the Windows server where application is running, and inside the IIS web servers. So just wait for a while, it will take some time to load because as we know the Windows server are very heavy and it requires some time to boot up properly. So this is our server, and I hope you guys find this video amazing or find it helpful. And for terminating this thing, you can do it in a one click. You just have to click here to terminate, and your everything like whatever Elastic IP, load balancer, auto scaling group has been created, everything will get destroyed and you will not be charged for anything. So thank you so much guys for listening to me, and I will see you next time. Before that, I have an announcement to make. Like I'm also making use of a blog spot, which is, let me show you. So I have a blog spot of mine own where I post or publish my own blogs. So you just have to search blog.prasadsuman.me, or even I will provide the link in the description. Here you can see like I have written blogs associated with the cloud and DevOps. It's almost like 1K followers are there. I'm not bragging about it, but because of my consistency, I get this. And in the sponsorship, you will find like how many posts I have made. So almost 186 posts I have done till yet, and I will keep continuing with the efforts I'm making right now. So feel free to connect with me and check out my newsletters so that every day you will get notified like whenever I write the blog. So on a daily basis I make a blog. So even you can check my GitHub account where I used to post about my source code which I make use or the project I use. So this is my GitHub profile. So I will provide the all the necessary link, and thank you so much guys for listening to me, and I will see you next time.